It's haunted.
Hey, welcome to So Anyway, It's Haunted.
You're probably asking yourself, what's so haunted about this? Well, guess what? Spooky house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah. Bet you didn't expect that.
Yeah, so this is, excuse them, please. They need to get their act together here. This is a podcast where we talk about haunted places, spooky things, urban legends, folklore. We read your paranormal listener stories, and we talk about all things paranormal. And joining us is our reoccurring host, or our, not host, I guess, but reoccurring guest. Yeah. Izzy Izagary.
Hey. Welcome.
Woo! You
all right, calm down.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, hold your applause.
It's Izzy Mania over here.
Oh, yeah.
He did the Bigfoot thing.
But just to let everyone down, at the top of the podcast, I rolled into town probably a few hours ago, and I have not done any homework, so there will not be any kind of quizzing.
Yeah.
That's all right. We're just happy that you're here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome again to our humble abode.
I appreciate
welcome.
Our humble castle on a hill.
Yeah, so we have a, let's go ahead and address this. We have a lot of new listeners lately. Specifically people that we know.
Oh, what?
And
This is news to
we
me.
just want to say hi to all you guys.
Hello.
Yeah.
Don't say it so disingenuously.
Sorry about that, guys.
As he polishes off his mochi ice cream. Oh my lord, this man.
By the way, those were not his fingers.
Oh no.
Ew! Oh my lord.
That
Anyway.
was a toe joke, but he just took it.
Wow.
And with the
No.
idea-
I couldn't reach my toes.
No.
That was it
No.
was toes.
No. This is not that kind of podcast.
it's good there's no video.
Take
that to So Anyway, we want to forget about that.
Nice.
Thanks. Anyway, hey, what's up, all you new listeners? Thanks for joining us, and we're excited for you to be here. And thank you.
Yeah, welcome back.
Why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah, are you lost?
You? Do you literally not have anything else to do right now?
All right. Anything new this week? Anything spooky happened to us this week?
I've made zero progress on my dream journal, but I will record my dreams tonight.
Awesome.
I've been having vivid ones,
Ooh.
but then they disappear like 5 minutes after.
So, do you not, like, off the top of your head, remember any?
Could
you describe one?
There's one specifically that I remember that,
No.
Sorry, Cosmo walked directly onto the laptop, the open laptop.
there's one specifically that I remember. It wasn't a bad dream, but I was sort of like in a party fighting a vampire or something like that. Oh. And I was like hiding from the vampire, and we were in France. And that's all I remember.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. French vampires.
Cool. Last night I had a dream that I was in this like house or something, and any room that I went into, the only room that I was in was the one that was lit, essentially. So every other room that I wasn't in the house was dark, and you were there, and you looked into this other room, and you're like, there's people in there. And so essentially anytime we would look into a dark room, we'd see these like dark shadows, and then they would like dissipate, and it was super creepy. And I had to exorcise like the whole house because I felt like demons were closing in on us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is creepy.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Do you just do like a lot of like squats and stuff? Or?
Yeah, I exorcised them out. Yeah.
Okay.
We did a really hardcore WOD.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fools.
5 rounds of
Demons are
Cindy.
stronger than ever.
You gotta sweat them out. Sweat out the demons.
Sweat 'em out. Anyway, so what do we got this week?
Are there demons blocking your lower intestine or something? Sweat them out.
Well, you see, you make a cleanse of holy water, thyme, and a cranberry
chia
juice.
seeds.
Well, I was gonna say cranberry juice extract, and then it it lubricates the colon.
The
and then
holy
demons-
cleanse.
And then the demons just slide right out.
Is that the cleansing fire?
I mean...
You put a little bit of cayenne in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you got to juice it with some of that cayenne. And then silver shavings.
Silver shavings.
Like Goldschlager.
Yeah, it's a Goldschlager, but with blessed holy coins.
Nice.
So, yeah. Like I said,
Holy nickels.
oh, God.
It's awful specific.
Yeah.
All right, Christopher, what do you have for us this week? Wait, is there anything else anyone wanted to say before we...
Oh, I experienced
dove in?
sleep paralysis for the first time in a long time. It was actually today. I don't know why I didn't tell you guys this sooner. Oh, because I wanted to
Wow.
save it for the podcast.
Nice.
So during my break at work, I won't say what I do for a living. During my break at work, I basically could not control, not control. It's rather, I was just like, I could work out, I could do research, I could type up the stuff that I'm supposed to be typing, or I could take a nap. And I have like an hour and a half, so I was like, oh, man, I'll take a nap. It just, last night was rough. I should have went to bed sooner or something. So I'm laying down at my desk, and there's this point, I had the lights off. I turned the lights off in both the rooms. I have 2 rooms. And I'm sitting there, and I wake up with my head like on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, get up. Someone's here.
the heck?
Someone's knocking at the door.
What?
First off, nobody was knocking at the door.
Why is that?
No.
My mind was playing
Why is
tricks
that a
on me.
thing? Like the knocking and like the pounding and stuff like
Don't
that. That's
know.
crazy.
It drives me nuts. But someone was knocking at the door, and then I could feel somebody walking. So the thing is, my head is down,
Yeah.
and somebody was walking in the room towards my desk, and I was like,
Wow.
And then finally somebody did knock on the door, and like I was able to like lift my head finally. I just kept telling myself, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. I could not get up. I couldn't. I was literally like, I did not think I could experience sleep paralysis sleeping like you would in high school, like on a desk. But yeah, that happened.
That's
so
crazy. That's
I was
bananas.
like, lift your head, lift your head, lift your head.
Oh,
I
no.
could not.
You know, it might be a blessing that you didn't, because you may have regretted what you saw.
Oh. Nice.
Yeah, it was legitimately a freaky feeling because I was in like a pitch black room.
Yeah.
The only light there was like barely coming through the blinds, and I was just like, someone's walking up to my desk.
That's creepy.
How did you not text us immediately after that happened?
First off, I have no signal there. And second off, I was trying to write it off as like, it's okay, everything's fine, you know. I just won't make a big deal about it. And I was like,
Nice. Well, thanks for bringing the content.
yeah, it was.
I really appreciate you having those horrible experiences.
Thank you, brain.
just for the podcast. That's really sweet.
It was just your anxiety manifesting itself. You're fine.
Yeah. Fun.
Izzy, the token skeptic over here.
I mean, it's either that or there was a horrible shadow entity that was lurking just beyond your perception.
It was Shadow Man.
That's right. So does that pick up?
No, it doesn't. So they didn't hear what that was.
It was just dead silent. You should input that sound just for their sake.
The second I said that it's a shadow man lurking at the edge of your
yeah.
perception, then it just
It was like whenever Slender Man gets you.
It was the auxiliary cable that we
Man.
have that connects our thing to our thing.
It is difficult to shade my profession when I tell stories like this, but somebody that is present at
Yes.
my job came to me and was like, yeah, I've had that sleep paralysis. No, was it sleep paralysis? They said they had a dream. That's what I write. Like, I had a dream that there was this guy in a top hat, just a big, big shadowy, and I was like, no, you did not. And they're like, yeah, why? And I was like, the Hat Man appears in people's sleep paralysis things, and they're like, no, because this was it was a top hat, and I was like, it doesn't matter, it's the Hat Man, and I was like, that's so weird because you know nothing about it, yet you say you've seen it, and they were just like, I don't like this, I don't think I'm allowed to talk to you about this, and I was like, the Hat Man. So that happened.
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
Man, that's crazy.
You better not vomit on my PS3, boy.
He's looking at
Yep,
it.
that's what he's like. Where's a good place to vomit? Here is a place that I will vomit now. Here I go.
Oh, he's shopping around.
Maybe it'll be over here.
He's not used to that door being open. All right, look, this is quality content.
Sorry,
All right,
so-
Christopher, what do you have for us this week?
All right. So today I'm going to talk. Actually, before that, would you guys ever visit a medium?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
That has always been a moral question for me.
Yeah.
Because I was raised in a very spiritual household, and it was very much frowned upon too. Because you're not supposed to support witchcraft.
Yeah.
And that is considered witchcraft.
Okay.
Plus, I think there's just such a large... So, me on a personal level, not only is there that moral ambiguity of, is it right to see somebody that potentially is, dealing with things that are unnatural, but also it's a question of there's just so many phonies out there.
Yeah.
That it's like, first, would you jeopardize your morality when there's like a 9 out of 10 chance that the person's just like trying to listen to the few facts that you've said and try to base their argument off of that? So
it's kind of like a lot of them are just sort of like con artists that are thinking on their feet and like noticing cues and
yeah.
Or people that might just be, I don't know, intuitive. A little bit more sensitive than normal people, but aren't necessarily mediums, but believe they are.
yeah. I didn't mean to sound like judgmental by calling them con
No,
artists
and I'm not saying that every medium is a con artist either. It's just
They might just be crazy.
that too. I mean,
Just incredibly delusional about...
we're not saying you're just con artists. We're saying that you're psychopaths.
We're stigmatizing mental illness while we're at it.
But
I would visit one.
if you came to me, basically like a genie in a bottle situation, and you're like, hey,
Wait, you would visit one?
Yeah. Just to see what it's like.
that doesn't surprise me with you. But if you came to me with like a genie in a bottle situation, you're like, hey, this person is 100%, here's the magical receipt.
Yeah.
This person is legitimately a medium. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
I don't know.
the idea of a medium, there's not a whole lot of practical use behind it. It's mostly you want to contact somebody who's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so...
It's emotional closure.
Yeah, but unless like you're trying to like squeeze some information out of the dead,
Like where they hid the gold.
Yeah, like unless you're trying to find Curly's gold or whatever, I mean, it seems like a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you'd be able to really move on.
I think that's the basis for my answer. My answer would be no, because I don't really have anything that I need any specific past people
Yeah.
to answer for me. I mean, there's the obvious, like what is waiting after death and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't know that I trust
Yeah.
The void.
anybody. Yeah, I don't know that I trust anybody that the medium is just supposedly speaking to.
Yeah.
I was actually listening to an episode of Criminal earlier about this very popular medium in the 1940s. And many people tried to debunk her and things like that. And she eventually spent 9 months in jail because of a law that was created during the Salem witch trials. Basically saying that you couldn't, lie to people about, spiritual things for gain or something. I don't know, something like that. So it's really interesting you asked that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. Because I don't know if they can talk to people. And if they are talking to people, are they talking to the ones they think they're talking to?
Or are they talking to something else?
Exactly. And I like how you said something else, not someone else.
Yeah. So, yeah. This week, I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. It's not really like a haunted thing. And in fact, it's kind of the opposite of a haunted thing. I'm going to talk about the Fox sisters.
Ooh.
And basically the birth of the American spiritualist movement, spiritualism, and like in the early 1900s. So it started back in rural New York, supposedly, or parts of the movement can be traced back there. And I got most of my info from a Gizmodo article that's really good, and also some Wikipedia, good old fashioned Wikipedia. And they also did an episode of this on lore, which is really, really good.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I think they also did it on the dollop.
Probably, yeah.
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 It's just the history of psychic bullshittery.
Yep. So it began in 1848. The story when sisters Kate, this specific story, when sisters Kate and Margaret Fox of Hydesville, New York, decided to play a prank on their mother.
Oh.
Wait,
okay,
you know this?
okay. I think I do. I mean, I have a paranormal podcast. I think I might know this.
I think I know this.
I think I
What,
probably
the Fox
may have
sisters?
heard this.
Yeah, I know them. No
And-
items.
I'm
Ma,
definitely
final
not
destination.
doubting myself now.
Ma, there's a ghost. Ma, ma.
So the farmhouse in which they lived was like sort of creepy, and it was known around town for sort of, I guess, basically being haunted, almost being haunted. Like there were rumors about their house that there was a murder that occurred on the property,
A murder.
and that the body is still buried somewhere on the property. So when Margaret was 14 at the time, and her sister was 11, they began tying strings around apples, and at night they bounced the apples along the stairs, producing eerie thumps that echoed through the home. In 1888, Margaret told her story of the origins of the mysterious rappings. When we went to bed at night, we used to tie an apple to a string and move the string up and down, causing it to bump on the floor, or we would drop the apple on the floor, making a strange noise every time it would rebound. Mother listened to this for a time. She would not understand it and did not suspect us as being capable of a trick when we were so young.
That reminds me of the Bob's Burgers episode. I can't remember what's happening, but the Bob is going to that laser show, that laser rock show, and he describes it to the kids, and Louise is like, "So that's life before the internet, huh?"
Yeah. So as their prank continued, their repertoire expanded to one of the sisters had a unique skill where they could crack their big toe joints to produce a sharp rapping sound. Yeah, so their mother was very easily tricked. She never really suspected her daughters. So she assumed that the strange sounds had to be a ghost. On the evening of March 31st, Mrs. Fox lit a candle and searched the darkened home for her spirit. She ended in her daughter's shared bedroom. Margaret and Kate now had two options. They could either fess up to the consequences or commit to the ghost story further. So she peered into the darkened corner and she addressed the spirit. "Mr. Splitfoot," she said.
Ew.
"Do as I do."
Mr. Splitfoot.
That's what, the devil or something? Splitfoot, like a hoof?
I guess so. Or I guess that's just what they called the ghost in their house.
I'm sure they were probably like, that sounds really cool, but
Yeah.
in actuality, the mother's like, that's Lucifer.
There's a ghost and his foot's effed up. It's split in two. As if it's a split foot.
Yeah, it is. It does seem like a weird thing to call a ghost. But she said, "Do as I do." And she clapped her hands 4 times, and then the sister popped her joints 4 times.
Gross.
Mrs. Fox, terrified, asked the spirit to count to 10, and the appropriate number sounded. She then asked the spirit to reveal the number of children she had born and the ages of each. For each question came the correct answer. And then she asked, "If I were to call our neighbors, would you talk with them?" So news quickly spread of the Fox sisters and their ability to communicate with the dead. And then, when their elder sister Leah, a 33-year-old divorcee living in Rochester, learned of their talents, she immediately appointed herself as manager and took the sisters on tour.
This is
Wow.
insane, dude.
I love
Yeah.
how back in the day you could just be like, "I'm your manager now."
Yeah.
Like it's like, I'm just gonna take your kids.
Wait, how
on
old
the
were
road.
they at the time?
I think they were preteens.
Man.
Yeah.
Their
I mean, they're
sister
practically
walked
adults.
out to get a carton of milk, and she was
Got
like, "Hey guys,
married,
I'm
then
back.
got divorced and came back.
You
Yeah.
know you need me."
But imagine being a 33-year-old divorced woman in the
Finally.
early 1900s.
My chance.
You know?
Yeah. So Leah whisked her siblings to Syracuse and Albany and then sailed down the Hudson River to New York City. There, the Fox sisters conducted hundreds of seances for the city's cultural elite, including James Fenimore Cooper,
Oh, yeah.
Sojourner Truth, Evening Post editor William Cullen Bryant, and New York Tribune publisher Horace Greeley. So by 1850, the Fox sisters were really well known throughout Manhattan, and they were luminaries of the American spiritualist movement, which was blowing up at the time. But eventually, this is like where it gets like kind of dark. The sisters, all three of them, started developing heavy drinking problems. And Leah's control over her siblings grew more extreme. Meanwhile, the nation's obsession with spiritualism triggered an explosion of flashier mediums, and the Fox sisters became old news. In 1888, Margaret, estranged from the others, accepted a $1,500 bid from a reporter to admit that her life as a medium had all been a lie. On October 21st, Margaret stood before a packed house at New York Academy of Music and demonstrated every supposed deceit performed during her seances, including the signature rapping of her popping toe joint. Margaret and Katie, after that, made very strong statements against spiritualism. That I have been chiefly instrumental in perpetuating the fraud of spiritualism upon a too confiding public. Most of you doubtless know. The greatest sorrow in my life has been that this is true, and though it has come late in my day, I am now prepared to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I am here tonight as one of the founders of spiritualism to denounce it as an absolute falsehood, from beginning to end, as the flimsiest of superstitions, the most wicked blasphemy known to the world. And she concluded the evening by denouncing spiritualism as the greatest curse the world has ever known.
Wow.
It's pretty dramatic.
Jeez.
It's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
So after that, the world sort of promptly turned its back on the Fox sisters. Margaret later withdrew her confession, but it was kind of too late at that point.
No, it's real.
And then within 5 years, all three women died of alcoholism.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
More like ghost cancer.
Yeah. And this last little tidbit kind of like sent shivers down my spine. So, in 1904, there was a body found on the farmhouse estate that they were born.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Did they know? Were they able to like date the body, like when it was?
Well, I mean, typically whenever a body's dead, you can't really take it out on like a Saturday night.
Wow.
Wow.
It was found in the cellar when a false wall fell down.
Oh gosh.
The Boston Journal published a story about the discovery on November 22nd, 1904. The tin box of the peddler was found in the cellar and is now in the Lily Dale Museum. Skeptical researcher Joe Nickel concluded after researching the box and the primary sources of the bones that they constituted further hoaxing. The bones were, at least in part, those of animals. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's not
You
right. That's not right. You
punk.
did that. You're a little turd with the shivers down your spine.
Big old Baluka.
I started reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually a dead body at their house. There has been no confirmation that the peddler existed, and the alleged false wall appears to be due to an expansion of the foundation, not concealment of a secret grave, unfortunately. And that's the story of the Fox sisters.
Neato
Hey,
Petito.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
There was like, there's so much weird stuff with like early mediums and spiritualism. Like they would produce ectoplasm,
What?
which is like they would bring out like because ectoplasm is just like ghost juice.
Yeah.
But they would produce like a really oily, gross, sopping rag or something like that, and they would pass it off as like I don't know, some sort of like ethereal thing. I don't know.
It's so weird that you're bringing this up because literally on the way home, I was listening to all of this like on Criminal about that medium, and she would take cheesecloth and like keep it in her mouth and her throat and then regurgitate it, and that would be the ectoplasm that people would see.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild stuff.
It's like, dude, like, that's a long game, man. Like, that's rough. You have to train yourself to do that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, on an unrelated note, every time you said rapping, all I could think was that the East Coast rap game was strong.
Yeah,
That's really just the only thing that came to mind.
nice.
Just that East Coast rapping.
Well, thanks for that
East Coast
contribution.
Yeah, man.
All right, Macanelli, what you got for us?
All right.
Monster Mac.
Oh, I've got something for you, all right. And you're going to hear it right after my potty break.
Nice.
Sorry. Anyways, so thanks to this podcast spoiling my full name as a Macanelli.
Wow.
Hello, viewers. You might
that out.
be able to pick up from the etymology of that. Let me make sure I said that right. Etymology, yes.
Etymology.
Yes, you might have been able to pick up from the etymology of that I am Scottish,
Etymology.
Irish.
Okay.
And today's urban legend comes straight out of Scotland.
Okay.
This is the Nuckelavee.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure I said that wrong. But let's see.
How's it spelled?
Oh, boy.
Spell it.
Nuckelavee. Nuckelavee.
Oh, you know that's not pronounced like that. We know that's not pronounced like that. It's probably like...
Might have been like Nuckelavee.
Nuckelavee.
It's probably completely the opposite.
Nuckelavee. I don't know.
Because, like, is that Celtic? What you're reading or no?
Yeah, if it's like Celtic or Gaelic or something,
Yeah.
they add like a lot of sounds.
Yeah. Everything has, like,
It's
multiple
technically from
syllables.
Norse mythology.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
anyways, the Nuckelavee. I turn when I breathe. Chocolate brain. The Nuckelavee is a horse-like demon from Orcadian mythology that combines equine and human elements. It has origins in Norse mythology.
Pre-Jersey
Norse.
Devil?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And British folklorist Catherine Briggs calls it the nastiest of all the demons of Scotland.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you gotta love whenever something they actually have to rank it. They're like, this is the bazinga. No.
That's the name.
I was trying to like think of the fastest onomatopoeia that came to mind. This is the Grand Matambo of all. What? Is Matambo a thing too? I don't know. Anyways, comment below if you know what Matambo is.
Comment where? Where are
On
they
iTunes.
commenting?
Leave a review and say,
Yes,
are you
exactly.
I know what Matambo. 5 stars. I know what Matambo is.
Are you referencing the basketball player? Yeah, I think
Is there a basketball?
Yeah, there's like a basketball player.
You know
His last
what?
name was like Matumbo.
That's why. The reason why that's in the back of my head is he's the guy that goes, no, not in my house. I don't know what his first name is, but definitely Matumbo is his name.
Dude's super tall.
Anyways, getting back on subject here.
Yeah.
British folklorist Catherine Briggs calls it the nastiest of all the demons of Scotland. The Nuckelavee's breath was thought to wilt crops and sicken livestock.
Ooh.
And the
Sounds like
creature
somebody's
was
mom.
held responsible.
I was...
Charming. You just drip charm.
Thank you.
I'm gonna put that at the end.
Please do.
I mean, you already farted directly into the mic, and everyone knows. So
Yeah, Michael's not
Yeah.
pleased.
Anyways, who?
Michael, you said you farted into Mike.
Ha!
he is on one tonight. Wow, he's so pleased with himself.
Immeasurably.
Anyways, the creature was held responsible for droughts and epidemics on land, despite being predominantly a sea dweller. Way to go, Scotland!
A sea-dwelling, half-human, half-horse thing.
Hey, we have listeners from outside America. If you know about the Nuckelavee, first off, and you
First
know
off,
that
how
we're
do you say it?
first off, if you know that we're saying this absolutely wrong,
Have you
but
ridden
second off-
one?
Yeah.
I mean, it
Can you tame it?
You probably ride one to school, right?
kind of sounds like a hippocampus. type thing, where it's like a sea
I
horse.
can't believe I actually know what that is.
Yeah, it's like a seahorse.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe it's a corrupted seahorse.
It's a devil seahorse.
But no, I was legitimately gonna say, if you know what this is,
Bojack
please,
Seahorseman.
please write in.
Yes, please.
Anyways,
Yes, please.
a graphic description of a Nuckelavee, as it appears on land, was given by an islander who claimed to have had a confrontation with it, but accounts describing the details of the creature's appearance are inconsistent. In common with many other sea monsters, it is unable to tolerate fresh water. Therefore, those it is pursuing have only to cross a river or stream to be rid of it. The Nuckelavee is kept in confinement during the summer months by Mither O.C., an ancient Orcadian spirit, and the only one able to control it. I guess we'll figure out who that is in a second.
Okay.
Orcadian folklore has a strong Scandinavian influence, and it may be that the Nuckelavee is a composite of a water horse from Celtic mythology and a creature imported from the Norsemen. As with similar malevolent entities such as the Kelpie, which was my first thought when I thought of this guy.
The Kelpie.
The Kelpie. It is like a demonic horse thing that tries to convince you to ride it, and then it drowns you in
No.
You don't know about a Kelpie?
No, I've never heard of that.
I mean, I guess
Oh,
I just...
you haven't heard of a Kelpie.
Look, man, I look up urban legends for a living. Of course I know what a Kelpie is. Anyways, we'll come back to those guys another day.
Okay.
It possibly offered an explanation for incidents that islanders in ancient times could not otherwise understand. So, let's go to folk beliefs for a second. Descriptions. Stories of a mythical Orcadian demons are recorded in the 16th century Latin manuscripts of Joe Ben. I don't know.
Okay.
Joe Ben is just some guy.
Oh, you don't know about Joe Ben?
Oh, you know?
Oh.
Joe.
Good old
Ben
Joe Ben.
Joe.
Oh, JB. Yeah.
Oh, Benethan Joe? Yeah, I know him.
Yeah. Ben Jojo.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Joseph Benison.
Denison described much of the information available about the traditional tales told on Orkney, but to an extent romanticized and systematically altered certain elements of the story in the process of transforming them into prose. The Nuckelavee is a mystical sea creature that appears as a horse-like demon when it is ventured onto land. Writer and folklorist Ernest Marwick considered it very similar to Norwegian Nok, a nuggle of the Shetlands, and the Kelpie, which we'll talk about later. A unique and solitary creature possessing extensive evil powers, its malevolent behavior can influence events throughout the island. Islanders were terrified of the creature and would not speak its name without immediately saying a prayer.
Oh, wow.
Oh gosh, I'm like, what, 10 prayers in? I need to... Oh boy. It was often found in the vicinity of a beach, but would never come ashore if it was raining. Lucky. No tales describe what form the Nuckelavee takes when in sea, but its appearance on land has been recounted in graphic detail. An islander, Tomas, claimed to have survived a confrontation with the beast, and after much cajoling from Denison, reluctantly gave his description of the monster. The only known first-hand account, according to Tomas, the Nuckelavee has a man's torso attached to a horse's back as if it were a rider. The male torso has no legs, but its arms can reach the ground from its position on top of the equine body, legs of which have a fin-like appendage. For those listening, let me repeat that so that you can hear it, not just their screaming.
Whoa.
But its arms can reach the ground from its position on top of the equine body, the legs of which have fin-like appendages. The torso has a large head, possibly as much as 3 feet in diameter, that rolls back and forth.
No.
The monster, described by Tomas, has 2 heads. The equine head has an enormous gaping mouth that exudes a smelly, toxic vapor, and a single giant eye like a burning red flame.
Whoa.
A particular gruesome detail is the Nuckelavee has no skin. Black blood courses through the yellow veins, and the pale sinews and powerful muscles are visible as pulsating mass.
Wow.
Other reports state that the creature resembles a centaur. Narratives are inconsistent in the finer details of the demon's description, however. Trail Denison only describes a man's head with a mouth projecting like that of a pig. Manwick also only mentions one head with a single red eye, and he borrows some of Tomas's characterization by recording that the creature's mouth was like a whale's.
This sounds absolutely horrifying.
The Nuckelave's breath was thought to wilt crops and sicken livestock, and it was considered responsible for epidemics and drought. Seaweed burning to create what was known as the time as kelp began on Stronsay in 1722. The product, soda ash, was an alkali mainly used to treat acidic soil. Although, as time went on, its commercial importance in soap and glass manufacturing increased. The pungent smoke emitted during the process was believed to enrage the Nuckelavee, resulting in a wild rampage of plague,
What the heck?
death of cattle, and destruction of crops. The Nuckelavee was said to have infected horses on Stronsay with deadly diseases known as mortashine. To demonstrate its fury and exact its revenge against the islanders for burning seaweed, the infection subsequently spread to all of the islands.
Subsequently.
Cut that part.
You're talking to me in the future.
That part.
You're talking
The
to me in
infection
future.
subsequently spread to all of the islands involved in the industry. The creature was also blamed for prolonged periods of abnormally low rainfall, leading to water shortages and poor harvest. Thankfully, of all the urban legends to speak of, this one is confined. The Nuckelavee is the most malevolent of all the demons in and around Scottish Islands without any redeeming characteristics. The only entity able to control it is the Mither O.C., which we mentioned before. An ancient spirit of Orcadian mythology who keeps the Nuckelavee confined during the summer months, in common with other mystical sea monsters, with the possible exception of Kelpies and the Nuggle of Shetland. It is unable to wade through the fresh flowing water, therefore it can be escaped by crossing a stream. Tomas manages to escape from the Nuckelavee after he inadvertently splashed it with water from a louche.
What?
Louche? That he was alongside. This briefly distracted the monster, allowing Tomas to run over to a nearby channel of fresh water and jump to the safety of an opposite bank.
Nice.
So, and then the last thing I have for you is the origins of this guy. Malevolent creatures possibly serve to provide...
out?
What's up?
You keep saying malevolent.
Is it
Malevolent.
malevolent?
Yeah.
Like Maleficent?
Oh, I like that movie.
I was trying to wait till you finished, but you kept saying it.
Malevolent creatures possibly serve to provide explanations for incidents that islanders were otherwise unable to account for. Many ancient myths were based upon the natural elements of the turbulent and ever-changing sea around Orkney. Established Orcadians' tales were strongly influenced by Scandinavian mythology with a blending of traditional Celtic stories, so the Nuckelavee may have its roots in mystical creatures imported by the Norsemen fused with a traditional Celtic water horse,
Wow.
i.e. the Kelpie,
Okay.
which we'll talk about another day.
So it's a fusion of mythical animals.
Yeah. But it's the big baddie of Scotland.
The big Matumba.
The not in my house.
Maximum Matumbo.
Jackpot.
So it's just
Baby.
like a super gnarly demon with bad breath that
So I'm sorry.
chases people.
Here's as good of a description as you're gonna get, and I will send you the picture of this guy.
Oh, yeah.
It is a horse body with a horse head, where the horse head, his eyes are whited out, and his mouth is gaping open with toxic fumes coming out. He has no horse legs, but has the upper torso of a man sitting on top of it, whose arms reach down as if legs. And the horse part of the body, though not having legs, has fins instead.
Nice.
So, and remember, he has no skin.
Wait, and it said he had a head that moved back and forth?
That was the horse head. The horse head goes...
Yeah.
But I thought you were saying that the human head was 3 feet in diameter and wobbled around.
That too.
Oh, yeah, and that.
All of the above.
There's a lot to this.
Yeah, he's a big nasty.
Someone just ate some bad mushrooms, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Or had sleep paralysis at their desk. And then that guy was just like...
He was just like kind of walking, slomping around, you know. Those super long arms with those Kevin Loney arms.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Did you hear that, Kevin Loney? Are you subscribed?
Did you
If
hear
you're
that?
not-
No,
if
you
you're-
didn't, because you don't
if you're
listen.
Oh, no.
Oh, I don't mind. He's busy. It doesn't bother me.
He won't.
It doesn't bother me. He's more successful.
Nice.
All right, so let's jump into our final segment for tonight. Would anyone like to do me the honor of playing our favorite intro song?
Oh, is it him again?
The Rory.
Yep. Ragtime Rory. Anybody?
I forgot how it
Yeah, I
goes.
know.
Ragtime Rory.
There we go. All right, so he says, "Hello, Scare Bears. Good to hear your voices again. I was wondering when you guys would be up and running again. I'm glad you could get your crap together."
Has this been... So this was written since we've recorded our last one?
Yeah, this was the 5th, so this
Wow.
is 2 days ago.
Jeez Louise,
Yeah.
he is on top of it.
Yeah. All right, so he says, just kidding.
Nice.
Ninth.
Ninth.
Ninth. We know the work you guys put into this podcast and pulling the stuff together. We know you guys love what you do on this podcast. So do 100% of your listeners. So do 100% of your listeners, except for the losers on iTunes who leave bad reviews. Shame on him. I know you can't call him an idiot since you don't want to seem like the kind of host that can't take a bad review. But I have no qualms in calling people idiots. He's an idiot.
I looked him up, actually. Just so you know.
I did too. I looked him up and then I looked up like his whole history of him reviewing podcasts, and he just like gives everyone a negative review.
He's just a troll. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
I don't know how we happen to accidentally fall within his...
Truly. I have no idea. He said, "My sign-off last time, Rory the Jubilex Killer, Stotts, if you forgot, was a D&D reference." He
Called
says,
it.
Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah,
says,
now that we have Izzy here.
He says, "I have never actually played it before, but it sounds fun. Maybe Izzy caught the reference."
I definitely did.
Uh-huh, he did. Izzy live texts us as he's listening to the episodes, and literally, let me look up what he said. You literally were like, first of all, you said, "the worm fed on fresh butt," and we were all confused. And then you said, you said that Jubilex is a demon lord of slimes and D&D. And he said, "I was right. Rory has been dead for years." Let's see. He says, "I don't know if Jubilex is actually something that is commonly known." Ragtime Rory, probably not what I would have chosen, but I can get down with that. The theme song was spectacular for a spontaneous song. I would be honored to have a segment. Also, I love that you found the hidden message in that email, and this is when I start feeling bad. He said, "I've been sending hidden messages for the past 10 emails."
No!
I know! At least, and have been ever so slightly disappointed each time when it was not discovered. I'm sorry. Look, I'm the one that reads the emails, and truly, I just didn't notice, I guess. I don't know. They're all so long and involved. Let's see.
You know, he could be trolling you right now. He just wants you to go back
No.
and try to find something.
Would he? I don't know.
I mean, he's a bit of a scamp at times.
Oh, yeah. A rascal, perhaps?
Yes, a
A
rapscallion.
scamp. I like that. Let's see. But I knew that you would come around, and I'm happy that it was discovered. They haven't been super complex, just the same bolding letter technique and the anagrams and the subject lines. But maybe a closer look at my emails may reveal more than meets the eye. Okay, so I noticed the weird titles of your emails, but I thought, like, maybe he's just being goofy. I don't know, man. Oh, me no smart. He says, "Also, FYI, you're probably going to read this after the fact, but I'm going to have another baby on the 4th. My wife is being induced that day, and we should have a new member of the So Anyway It's Haunted Ghoulies." And then in parentheses, he says, "Is that what So Anyway It's Haunted listeners are called?
Oh,
or is it
gosh.
creepers, creepies, spookers, scaries, frighties, fairies, zombies, Uncle Mac's mystery milk drinkers, or Uncle Mac's nephews
don't do
and
that.
nieces?"
I think for baby listeners, they should be called creepy crawlers.
Oh, that's
Oh,
so cute.
look at you.
Aw.
What about grubs?
Grubs. I like that. I like creepy crawlers. I like that. I like that.
Sorry, Izzy.
You
you're
are
not- you're
married
not
to a
gonna win that
goth, aren't
one.
you?
If they can walk, the ankle biters.
No. The ankle biter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I really do like Uncle Mac's nephews and nieces.
It's supposed to be a joke, but I'm touched.
And he says, so many options, but which one is correct?
I don't know.
Whatever you choose, it's wrong.
Well,
We'll think about it.
Yeah, I like the nephews and nieces. He said, as far as some spooky stuff that I've been thinking about, a couple years ago, I first read a poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Is it Coleridge or Coleridge? Coleridge. And I've been obsessed with him ever since. I've read it probably a dozen times. It is a very famous poem called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Popular lines and concepts came from this poem. For example, the line, water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. And the concept of the albatross around your neck is a symbol of lasting guilt for one's actions.
ooh.
The first time I read it, it was a little difficult, but I could not stop thinking about it. It was beautifully written, and the tone of the whole piece feels super gray-tinted. It has a very Poe-like feeling to it at times. If you haven't read it before, I highly recommend it. It takes maybe half an hour to read through. But one aspect of it that I love is the idea of this ancient mariner who has really seen some pretty intense stuff and had to live through a tremendous ordeal. And he will just be walking around a city until he sees someone that he feels compelled to tell his story to. Like, the reason for the whole experience he lived through, although he himself must have learned from it, is truly for the purpose of teaching/haunting others. There is some supernatural force pulling the strings behind the scenes, compelling him to hold a hostage with the look of his eye until they hear the entirety of his story. It also has an interesting view on the personification of death and life in death. As their ship goes adrift on the ocean with no propulsion from the wind, a ghost ship pulls up next to them just in time for them to witness the game of dice they're playing. Death and life in death are seeing who will win the ship of sailors. Picture death as a classic Grim Reaper in a black hood, while life and death is portrayed as a beautiful woman with golden hair and skin as white as leprosy.
What?
As
I know,
leprosy.
right? That would be a chilling scene to see when upon the thrones of death. Wait, I'm sorry. That would be a chilling scene to see when upon the throes of death. It makes me think, what if we all lived in a universe where our fate was determined by a game of dice being played by death and life and death, or two other personified members of fate, life versus death, or health versus sickness, or short versus tall, or whatever. A universe where our fates lie in the dice of two beings, and there's nothing we can do about it. Where we have no control over what we do and if we can survive. I guess that really is the universe for some people, those who are born in circumstances that are physically impossible to escape no matter how hard they try. There is also a scene with reanimated corpses that run the ship as if they were still alive. It is a very Pirates of the Caribbean-esque scene that makes me wonder if Pirates of the Caribbean actually got inspiration from this when filming, and how many more references in pop culture there could be that are derived from classic stories like this. There has to be a ton. Can you think of any that have slipped past myself or the common viewer?
Like where to start? Like specifically on like in a pirate movie or just in general?
Just in general, I guess. But
Like,
I mean,
if you just start with like the pirate thing, the idea of curses. I mean, I think it's just sailors in general have always been incredibly superstitious. So the idea of just taking something that wasn't yours and it being cursed is pretty big. I mean, the idea of sea monsters have been around forever. Just seeing any type of deep sea critter suddenly come up from the depths has to be extremely terrifying for someone who's only ever seen edible fish or land critters. I mean, there's all sorts of nightmares that live beneath the sea that are mostly innocuous. So
Goodness sakes.
What
What do you think it is that makes seafaring folk, whatever word you want, not just sailors, but like anybody that was just like out in the open waters? What do you think it is that made them specifically superstitious about everything? Like, I'm assuming to not to just immediately answer my own question, but like for them, it must have been the same as it is for us growing up in the age of like space travel and everything. Yeah, I mean, like, just imagining being being out of our atmosphere and witnessing that whole experience. Like, how can you not be to some degree? Like, I thought about that the other day. I think it might have been maybe almost even a dream that I had where it was like, how would I would never be passed. They would never say that I could go to a space station because they'd be like, oh yeah, no, this guy's off his rocker. The moment they put me in like, a dark room,
you're
I
mentally weak.
like, yeah, that just would not fly. But like sailors, man, like it was just back in the day. Like, hey, would you be okay with spending like a month?
Yeah.
On the open water, in hopes that maybe you find land somewhere else.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
It would probably be a lot longer than a month. And so, if you're trying to figure out why sailors are superstitious, I mean, you got to remember back in the day, education was pretty much you went to church.
That is true.
And then that was about it. There was no you weren't reading, any types of science or literature or anything. It was literally just like whatever Bible teaching you got, and then whatever local folklore, and then they stick you on a boat. You become sun-addled, and the only fluid you could drink would be mixtures of like lime and rum and water.
Gosh.
And then your food sources would probably be mostly super dried out or partially rotted. So I mean, you're not going to be in the best state if you are a regular sailor.
Yeah.
So I mean, between that and then just the effects of possibly being out on the open ocean, where you are just you're in an isolated space, but still out in the emptiness of the sea. I mean, it would be mind-numbing, and the constant sensory input you'd be getting could cause like all sorts of like delusions and. Yeah. I mean, if you have no idea to just be able to say, oh, well, my diet's terrible and I've been out in the sun all day, any little thing is going to, everything's going to be amplified.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all sorts of, superstitions of the sea could easily just be, these men are being, dried out and tortured and malnourished. So
it does. That profession specifically does seem to breed like a certain type of person, and like people with those profession develop like a super strong sense of camaraderie with each other, similar to how people might if like they were in the same branch of the military or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they've all been through something.
Yeah.
And like being on the open ocean, like the only entertainment you have is like each other and yourself, and like for like months and months and months, and like that was like all you had. So I don't know, like stories kind of captivated like your mind, and I don't know.
Yeah, and that's not counting any horrible cases of syphilis and all sorts of other things that could be inflicted upon these sailors. So I mean, there's tons of stuff that would cause sailors to be superstitious and spooked of everything. Plus just how finicky the ocean is, weather-wise. I mean, it's pretty much...
It's a dangerous profession.
Yeah, you kind of have to have a gambler spirit to really be like a lifetime sailor. The kind of... You need to have faith in something, and the fact that every time you go out there, it isn't just like you're on a farm all day.
Yeah.
You are... Like, the ground itself is never stops moving.
Yeah.
So it's probably a strange experience.
That really put that into perspective for me. I never really considered that, but that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so Rory goes on, actually. Yeah, he goes on to say, I learned recently something you guys might find interesting as well. M.R. James, as you all know, was a prolific author of ghost stories in the early 1900s, and his stories have been done and redone dozens of times since their creations. He inspired the likes of Lovecraft and other horror writers. James had a couple of rules that he composed by when writing... James had a couple of rules that he composed by when writing a true ghost story that I thought were interesting. One, the supernatural quality of the ghost can't be explained away with rationality or a scientific/pseudoscientific explanation. Two, it should inspire the reader with pleasing terror. Not 100% sure how to define pleasing terror. Any thoughts or examples to relate to that?
It's like just enough. Mm-hmm. Like you're not, I guess, making them depressed. Although, like, I feel like some people like to go that far.
I mean, I think a pleasing terror is just enough to start poking that adrenal gland and, make the hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up, but it's not so much to where it becomes, I guess, painful. It's kind of like the same thing with, like, eating spicy food. Yeah. There's a difference between being pepper sprayed and eating hot sauce. Yeah. Like, there's just enough of an endorphin release that it overpowers whatever pain or, negative feeling. So it kind of, I guess, feeds itself.
Yeah.
But there's kind of a balance, because if you overshoot it, then suddenly whatever pain or fear is suddenly going to, counteract whatever endorphins or whatever your body releases to calm you down.
That was a good analogy. He said, 3, it should not have gratuitous violence. 4, it should not have gratuitous sex. And 5, it should have a contemporary setting where the reader can relate to the protagonist. He said, I thought those were nice rules, but I feel like there are many ghost stories that don't necessarily apply to these rules. One that I love is the movie The Others. It just breaks rule number 5 by setting, by being set in the 1800s, and I don't relate to the protagonist at all, but that doesn't take away from the mystery of this mansion and the main character's role in it. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner is also one that breaks rule number 5, but I find it abides the others well. What do you guys think of those rules? Are they a little antiquated or old-fashioned for today's audience? And he says, can you think of any other stories that do or don't fit those rules? And are those stories any good? He says, anyways, you guys are rocking it. I'm listening. He said, I am loving, excuse me. So anyway, it's haunted as well. He said, Rory, the Lardo lad ad stats. Wow. And then he said, P.S. Here's some photos of the baby. And he said, cut me some slack. And he said, cut me a little slack off. I miss hold on. Cut me a little slack off. If I miss, I think he said, he meant to put if. I miss a Ragtime Rory segment or two. My life just got double busy with this baby. Cute. So, what do we think of the rules? Are they antiquated or old-fashioned for today's audience? And can we think of any stories that don't fit these rules? And are they good?
They're old-fashioned, man.
Get with the times.
Yeah, get out of here, Grandpa.
Turn on, tune in, drop out.
What was rule 5 again?
No gratuitous. Oh wait, no, it has to be relatable.
Yeah.
Has to have contemporary setting.
Yeah.
I feel like the 80s broke all these rules.
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the idea of a contemporary setting is you're pretty much any ghost story that doesn't happen within 20 years of you reading it suddenly stops being a ghost story. So that's kind of a silly rule.
Yeah.
I think I would say it could probably be revised to being it should be relevant. Like it shouldn't be.
That sounds.
It shouldn't be tied specifically to a certain, I don't know, technology or social happening or whatever.
I guess so, but there is the movie VHS, which centers around a VHS that has a bunch of spooky stuff on it.
Isn't that just a found footage?
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, do these count if they're not ghost stories? Are we just talking ghost stories here? Are we talking horror, like, generally? Like,
well, I mean, like, most common horror nowadays is defined as, like, some off-brand ghost story. Mm. Like, I mean, what would you call the Blair Witch Project? Clearly, the Blair Witch itself is not supposed to be a ghost-like entity, but, I mean, at the same time...
She's still spooky.
A supernatural...
I would call it a bad movie.
Wow.
That's not right. That's not right. That movie's really good. I like that movie.
Movie drags on.
It's so good. It's the building of it's dread. It's building dread.
I did not feel bad for those kids at all because they were just insufferable.
They did choose to be there.
It's like, oh, let's just go out in the woods. Like, we don't know anything about being in the woods, but we're going to go out here. Like, none of us have any orienteering or any kind of training. We don't get the locals
They had
to
the
show us
map,
around.
though. They had the map.
Yeah, well, a map does diddly squat if you don't know how to read a fucking map.
True.
I mean,
You're right.
like...
I'm just saying, I think that movie is fantastic, and I think it's really good. I like that movie.
That might be more from, like, a nostalgic reason. Because I watched it as an adult.
Oh.
And I was just bored out of my mind.
Wow.
It did not do it for me.
Man. Well, I'm a sucker for a found footage movie anyway.
So. I mean, I love found footage
Yeah.
movies. It's just literally everything I've seen after Blair Witch has been better. Like they figured out that you have to pace it.
Including
better.
that.
I won't knock
one...
it for the fact that it like created that genre, but there's been better since then.
Not many. Honestly.
I think Wreck is better.
Wreck is really good.
I was about to say, like, not the American remake, but like the original,
the Spanish one or whatever.
Yeah, like that was like legitimate spook. I might even go so far as to say the original Paranormal Activity, like, was,
Never seen it. I've only seen the sequels, and they all
I am so sorry. Why did we go in theaters to see one of the crappy sequels if you had not seen the first? The first is the only reason why any one of them should have been watched.
I mean, I enjoyed the Paranormal Activity movies, but that's probably just for, like, the effects and stuff. Like, it was a cool thing. Like, once the witches got involved, I was like, oh, dumb. No, but I was gonna say Apollo 18 was pretty fun.
I didn't see that one. Was there any supernatural?
It was
aspect to it.
Do you want me to just spoil it?
I mean, yeah.
I guess spoilers for Apollo 18. But no, it's pretty much there was never officially an Apollo 18 mission, but the premise is they go there.
Okay.
And they're walking around and they find, like, I think it was a Russian moonlander, but the Russians had been killed. And it turns out there were, like, these crazy spider aliens on the moon that look like they sit there as rocks.
Oh.
And then, like, they'd get collected, or they'd skitter around, and you'd get to see, like, the stuff skittering around or whatever when the astronauts aren't looking. And it was pretty cool. It was just like...
Huh.
It was like these guys got, murderized by moon rocks. And then, NASA hid... There's a reason we never went back to the moon and stuff. So, I mean, I enjoyed it.
Interesting.
So, but back to ghosts. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a ghost story. Instead of it having to be contemporary, it should just be able to be a more relevant theme.
Oh, I like that.
So, for instance, 30 years from now, if someone went back and watched, like, a Black Mirror or something, and it's talking about, some emerging technology like smartphones or something. But at that point, they might have communication devices embedded directly into their brainstem or something. It becomes less... The spookiness becomes less... I guess, applicable.
Yeah.
But if it's just like the idea of some sort of, entity or whatever being kept within some kind of computer system, I mean, there have been kind of like the rumor ideas of programmers and stuff dying and then being alive in their code and that's been around since, computers have been invented.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as long as computers are relevant, there'll be a little bit of resonance within the idea that something could survive within the ones and zeros.
Interesting.
Of like a computer.
There's a weird science fiction ghosty way to finish us off. I don't know if you're looking to find our big wrap up, but do you think that we will reach a potential point where a mind could be uploaded?
Consciousness can be uploaded? No.
I think it can be replicated. I don't know about uploading.
Maybe with quantum computing.
I mean, even with all of our, as far as like some of the best people imagining fiction-wise, science fiction-wise, where that goes, the most common answer is like copied. Yes. Replicated? No. So it's like I could essentially duplicate myself in a digital form, but that original self, it's not like I'm going to move to that.
Yeah.
It's that there's a new it's the same moral, what's the word?
You're talking about
gray area as cloning, but in a digital sense.
Yeah, I mean, most likely it would just be a new entity
Exactly.
that's born with your
Freakish.
memories, but you're not going to be the same person.
Digital Mac would be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
A super virus, if you will.
I mean, but then you could argue that off of those memories, you could create a program that could learn to adapt to new stimuli based off of previous actions, and then would that be the consciousness continuing?
But at that point, it's still just programming.
I mean, true, but
it's
like
a learning
then
program,
that would
but-
be more difficult for humans to determine whether or not
Well, see,
it's
now
just
you're
a
getting
program.
now you're getting into like AI ethics. Stuff. When does an artificial intelligence count as a living being?
Exactly.
And so I think that's beyond the scope of the podcast. I mean, that's just my opinion.
But can't we just speculate wildly?
It's the ghost in the shell.
I mean, I suppose.
They're actually funny you said Black Mirror. There's actually a Black Mirror episode about this.
No.
There's
that-
this woman's husband dies, and then there's this company that can take their online history essentially and create a personality, create a program for their personality that you can talk to, like on instant message.
It sounds like if they actually tried to do that, you'd just end up with a lot of like weird, degenerate computer.
gosh.
know. Yeah. Same.
I would be so upset if someone was able to take my Facebook and turn that into a personality.
That would not be you.
It would not be me.
you.
No, they wouldn't. No, they'd probably take everything you ever looked up.
Oh,
Every
that would be
word you
bad.
ever
That would be very, very.
That's why I'm saying is they'd
Yeah.
be degenerates because they wouldn't have any
Yeah.
context. It would just. I don't. It's like the AI program that they had where I think all it ended up doing. I know there was one AI where all it did was look up pictures of cats, and then there was like one. It was like a social AI, and then all it learned to do was just say incredibly racist
I was
things.
about to say,
Oh my gosh.
I thought they put one out there that's sole purpose was to learn, and it became like a neo-Nazi.
Yeah,
What the-
And they had to shut it down.
Because I think it existed. I think on Twitter. So all it did was just comb through Twitter, and then it learned, and then it became like super racist.
Wow.
But like I said, there was another one where it just combed through the internet, and all it did was want to look at cats.
Nice.
Like that's just all it did. It
Yeah.
just looked at pictures of cats, and I think it's just because there's so many pictures of cats, like this huge percentage that it just it calculated cats are important, so I'm gonna look at cats.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff with AI. So I mean, yeah.
So ghost stories, right?
Oh, yeah. Do you have any?
What? No.
Oh.
We're talking about ghost stories. No, we're talking about the email still.
We could talk about goat stories.
As he looks at his phone this entire time.
Deshaun Watson brought a heck of a win for the Texans.
Oh my lord.
What? It's true.
I'm sure some of our listeners are into sports, right?
Yeah.
You guys like sports?
Yeah. they're
Anybody? Hello?
Probably if they're listening to this, they don't like sports.
Oh my lord. Well, is there anything else before we close, gang?
Did you know that we have a
reckon
second
not.
podcast called So Anyway We Watched It? You should check it out sometime. We talk about movies and do reviews and talk about personal experiences while watching these movies. Maybe you want to know what we think. Maybe you don't.
Oh, check it out. There is one more thing. So last week, you brought up the circus thing.
Oh.
And that reminded me of the most terrifying episode of Real Ghostbusters
Yeah.
from when I was little.
Yeah.
And it was just about like all these animals that had been killed in like a circus fire.
Whoa.
And it shows like all the animals floating in the air, and it's just like it was that 80s animation style where it was it was more realistic than it should have been.
Yeah.
And it just it stayed with me.
Man.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just the idea of these horribly tortured animals.
Yeah.
That burned to death in a fire.
Yeah.
And now the Ghostbusters had to like deal with it.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't know. It was a prolifically spooky moment for me as a child. Like, it really got to me.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredibly horrifying and sad.
Yeah, but
I scared.
You know, I mean, that's 80s television for you, though.
Yeah.
They didn't really care what scared you.
It's true.
Or the ethical implications behind what they were showing.
The Ghostbusters. I think it's weird that Ghostbusters, both the movies, had some like legitimately freaky moments.
Yeah,
that,
like
creeped me out as a kid.
The stuff they were scared of was way less scary than the actual stuff happening. Like the Titanic just showing up.
Yeah.
And like belching ghosts out onto the harbor.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I don't really care about the dude in the painting.
Yeah.
It's like stealing a baby. I mean, these are like rampant ghosts just tearing apart New York. I mean,
yeah.
It's just terrifying.
Ghosts in the abandoned sewers.
Yeah, or like
in a subway.
The slime river.
Yeah, the slime river.
Yeah. It's like
Ew.
The part where the bathtub came to life freaked me out, too.
Do you know, that was the first memory I have of throwing up.
What?
I legitimately have a memory of being a child and throwing up in the bathtub scene with the weird ectoplasma, evil pink goo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember watching cartoons or something, and I was eating pickles and Cheetos, and
gosh, no wonder. I wonder what did it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be a mystery to me.
Well, thanks for joining us, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I reckon we'll see you on the old Dusted Trail. You can follow us on Instagram at It's Haunted Podcast. You can email us at anywayitshaunted@gmail.com. Email in your paranormal stories, your ghost stories, your sleep paralysis stories, your non-paranormal stories, anything you thought was paranormal. That one time you cracked your toes and then somebody thought it was a ghost and then you started a whole spiritual movement. Anything like that. We also have, like Monster Max said, we have another podcast called So Anyway We Watched It, where we watch movies and then we talk about them and it's funny. And we don't know how to stop. And this next episode, we're going to be talking about It Chapter 2, Bats, Dante's Peak, Wild Wild West, and Joker. So get ready for that.
Joker.
And you can find that at We Watch It Podcast on Instagram. We are on Spotify, on Stitcher, on YouTube, on iTunes, on Apple Music. Not Apple Music, on Apple Podcasts. Hey, guess what, Han? You can't put podcasts on Apple Music. He was like, oh, my bad. When I told him at work, I was like, dude, okay. Anyway, yeah, man. So check us out and rate us and review us. And I personally started an Instagram called Pumpkin Spice Paradise on Instagram, where basically I go and take pictures of pumpkin spice flavored things that I see out in the wild. So if you care about that, which I can't even eat most of the things I'm posting anyway, I just think it's like freaking hilarious.
Wait, I think there are pumpkin spice Oreos though.
Yeah, but I can't eat gluten anymore.
What?
Yeah, I've been allergic. I found out I was allergic to gluten like a year and a half ago.
Oh, that's news to me.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, well.
Welcome to my life.
I mean, I think my sister-in-law is also allergic to gluten.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's 2019. I can find most things vegan and gluten free. You know, you just have to look harder.
There for a while, were like Oreos like that? Like the one thing from the past that you could still eat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
hold on to it.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Anyway, well.
Tough titties, I guess.
What are you going to do? Exactly. Get over it. Anyway, Pumpkin Spice Paradise. If you care anything about pumpkin spice, and if you love fall, and if you have a heart, you would follow it. I'm just kidding. Anyway, we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye. Farewell.
Look at this graph!
I would just like everyone to know that McAnally is currently eating mochi ice cream into the microphone.
Why don't you give us a little ASMR here?
Yeah. No, okay, there you go. Into the mic with your mouth open. Now what they typically do is they take a whole big one and then they shove it in their mouth. No, you can't make grunting. No.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good stuff.
That was incredibly.
I feel so relaxed. Wait.
Now I can't. Now I can't go back and listen to this episode. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you listen to the episode, sure.
Actually, I do.
Wow.
We're going to make sure to mochi shame you the entire time.
I'm gonna be like, hey man, let's check out last week's episode. I'm gonna vomit on spot. Just
Yeah. But seriously, all that's missing is like a roaring fireplace, and you would be perfectly at home right now.
Yeah.
this is true.
Yeah, you're just inches away from the George Costanza pose.
Yes.